Hello, good morning, testing. So this morning's session is going to be, as I said in the description, a little bit of a philosophical view of using EURORACK as a workstation, a quick way to get ideas together, and followed by a performance, but also going through the ins and outs of how you could design your own EURORACK, the reasons you would get certain modules and things like that, but primarily to help you demystify the complexity. I mean, I've seen hundreds of videos on YouTube of people using Modular, and I think it tends to get a bad reputation simply because people use it to be different, to do sound design and more abstract compositions. Inverted pops. When you see your comments pop up, I'll respond on voice, easier than doing typing. As I said, yeah, so people use more Modular, I think, to be different from your standard, DAW, computer workstation, or hardware workstation, or drum machines, and a couple of synthesizer boxes, or even self-contained ones. I do a lot of videos using Analog 4 and Digitact and things like that. But Modular, to me, was very much a way to put something together that I thought would work for me. And so this talk really is about why I chose certain modules and a bit of an introduction to the general concepts of Modular. Then to show how quick it can be, because I tend to, like I said, watch videos and people go very slowly through how to connect a VCO to a VCF to a VCA just to get a single note. But it can be a lot quicker than that. So that's primarily what I want to do today. I'll just fiddle with the computer screen so I can see what you guys are up to. So first, I'll probably chapter mark these as well as we go through, but first just a quick overview of Modular from a very simplistic perspective. We have notes, sound modules that play those notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 there, 6, and some rhythm things up here. So these basically, sound modules that play notes, and then there's clocks and gates, and those are the things that trigger the notes. And clocks and gates are, these are clocks on the left here, and gate triggers or sequencers, these purely are pulses to trigger the rest of the equipment. And to be honest, that you can sort of look at it from that perspective. So for example, in my hand here I have notes, which is a CV on this black one, and then I have a gate on the green one. So if I go to any module, I'll just connect the note CV into this module and then the gate, and immediately we're playing some music. And likewise, any other module, let's go to this pluck for example, CV in, gate in, super easy, turn it up. And that's obviously controlling it from the keyboard. If I take a, let's say, take a note from this sequencer. Before I go into these basic patches, and then I'm going to go into fast sort of idea ideation, I think is a good word. The other types of things you get obviously is sequencers. So this is combining gates and notes together. So this one does that. Other types of sequencers are arpeggiators. This 2HP ARP is a note only CV, but you can also trigger it using gates. So it's a formal sequencer. The Turing module or machine is another type of sequencer. What else have we got? No, those are the ones that play notes. Also an LFO or a random module can play notes as well. But just back to that simplistic, here's a note CV out of this sequencer into, and we'll go into this in more detail later, but into this Quantizer it's called, which basically puts these crude voltages into tune. And then let's, for example, I don't know if this is long enough, let's choose a different lead. Go from the output of that into the same little synthesizer here, and immediately this is sending notes through to here. You can hear there's no gate yet, it's purely note CV, and I put the sustain up so we can hear it as a constant thing. And a quantizer allows us to turn these notes, let's just have two notes oscillating, into different scales. So that's your basic minor. See, I'm just adjusting this knob here, choosing scale. So this is a minor scale. Okay, and that, you know, I can add a gate to that, but we'll do that in a second. So that's a sequencer going through a quantizer to play the synthesizer. Another thing I forgot to cover, another thing labeled at Modular, is that it can be slow and complex. So that's one of the reasons I went for like this mini synth here. This is a mini synth and this is a mini synth. So these contained filters and oscillators, these 3 units, and it was primarily born out of watching too many modular setups that just had, you know, a VCO module, a VCA, F, a filter, VCA, an amplifier, and then an envelope. This is actually an envelope here, but this is all built into these two specifically, so it uses much less space. So this is a full-blown synthesizer. So let's show you that working again. Just quickly repatch that note CV. Just notes coming from here. You can see me adjusting it and being scaled, if you like, into the input. We can gate this so that I can show you what I mean by a simple version of that. Just take a longer lead, take the gate out of that into the gate in of this synth. So there's only 2 things I need to make the built-in ADSR work on this one. So I've got sustain and release and things like that coming from that simple gate. And this has got a filter built in as well, so if I choose, for example, a sawtooth, turn the filter up, I can add a sub, and obviously get quite crazy sounds. Let's make the sequencer a bit more interesting. And obviously we'll go into clocks and gates and things in a minute, but I can control the tempo of sequences. So I'll leave that connected. Because modular is, as the name suggests, in modules, you can do things like mix and match. So typical thing I like to do, let's just disconnect that again for a sec. And this is part of what today's about, is really thinking of this as a workstation. So, you know, the sound modules 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are brought up on this 8-channel mixer here over on the right. So that can become a full-blown workstation. So the simplest example is take a gate out of this little gate sequencer, feed it into the bass drum, choose the right track. This is the bass drum, can't hear anything at the moment. Let's just put a 4/4 in, adjust the sound of the bass drum. So immediately we get a kick going. If I wanted, for example, to play a tune along with that, just take the gate and CV from here, CV gate, and immediately perhaps the bass line. One thing you can do, of course, is split things. So the gate for that is coming from here, which allows me to do things like slow attacks, long releases, and so on. But what I'm going to do is split the CV, and this is where these multiples come in, and this is the kind of thing that you find it harder to do on more dedicated gear. So I'm actually going to take the CV, so this is the notes, and I'm going to have one of them going back into this synthesizer, so this note goes back into here. But I'm also going to send the same note to, for example, this pluck. So I'm just duplicating the CV across to here, and then I'm going to gate this more rhythmically against the bass drum. So I'm going to take, and this is not too complicated, it's super quick to do. To keep it easy, I won't use any mults. I'm just going to take track A, so this has got 4 tracks of gates. So track A, and just play in some random notes. Remember, that's playing the same note as this, so when I go, so immediately we've got this rhythmic thing going on, as well as like a lead sound. Of the stereo, you know, to get ideas going quickly. So a bit more click on the bass drum, and let's have a bit of delay. Okay, so that's splitting the CV from here. If I wanted to quickly add, let's say, a bit of a continuo sequencer thing. Incidentally, coloured cables, I tend to use these, anything with colour in, as CV or note CV, so coloured in black. Yellow and light green I tend to use for gates, but it depends if I run out of the cables too soon. So I'm going to use this sequencer here through this 2 HP Quantizer, and alongside this, so that's 3 parts going straight away. So alongside that, I'm going to use, I'll try and get a sequence going. So I'm going to take, don't want to reach, just about, use this synthesizer over here to just receive notes from this sequencer. And that should be playing straight away. You can hear it's in full sustain at the moment. Just get it in tune. I think that's in tune. It was just playing a... So one thing you would have noticed there is that this sequencer is out of step with the main clock, and that's because this has got its own clock in. So we just need to get a little baby patch cable, take one of the clocks and plug it into the input, and all of a sudden this is locked in now. Super easy. So I've, let's get rid of the other parts. So what I was doing there, I can play around with the meter of this one, so that's in 5/4, I can go to 4/4, which is more standard. And I can change the division of that as well on the fly, so it's good for performance. So see, I don't know if you can see it on the live stream, but over here I've got a clock multiplier and divider, so I can make it twice as fast. I think I can go like 3 times as fast. I can also go super slow, which is good for breakdown sections, using the same notes and that sort of thing. Eating rifles. Eating rifles. Let's have a drink. And a cough. Right. The horrible thing about this sound, of course, there's the filter built into this, so I don't have a separate filter module, is that it needs some kind of shaping. At the moment it's just a sustained note. So I'm actually going to take the gate from this sequencer and feed it into a dedicated envelope generator, and this allows me to shape the sound a bit more, which is kind of cool. So out of there into this, and already it's sounding a bit better with a bit of shaping. See how this sounds a stereo spread with the pluck over here. You have to look after the tuning all the time, of course. Once the modules settle down, it becomes quite easy to use. Notice how the pluck is obviously following these notes. I'll turn the sustain up on it a bit. Yeah, thanks Justin. Yeah, I hope it's useful. I'm trying to keep things super simple, just in terms of, you know, using this as a like a workstation, just to get ideas going quickly. I'm going a bit slower at the moment, of course, because I'm explaining it as I go along. Another advantage of modular gear is there's often things like randomizers and probability built in. I mean, I'm not using a lot of the expensive modules here at all. These are quite cheap, $100, $200 a module. Sure, it can add up, but you know, there are some modules like from Make Noise and other companies that are literally $700, $800, $900 each. So they, it gets kind of crazy. But a lot of them, even the basic ones, like this Steppy, for example. I'm just going to choose track A, which is going to this pluck. You can see it's pretty repetitive at the moment, but I can add probability in by pressing this button and saying, don't play all the notes all the time, just 50% of the time choose one. That gives what could be repetitive a bit more variation. Although that sound probably want a bit more consistency. So probability is kind of built into a lot of things. So even on the kick drum, I'll just show you, because this will, when I start doing some rapid patching later as examples, even the kick drum, which is on track C here, probability, I can take it down so occasionally some of the bass drums disappear, but more useful is sort of step-by-step probability. So I think I may have done this before. If I see these last three notes on this one, I've got it set. Press the edit. So probability for that step is about 50% chance, 50% chance, 50% chance. So that gives a bit of variation to the beat. So occasionally one of these three notes, or all three of them, will play just to spice up the bass drum a bit. A kick. And a little bit of probability on this one, again, just gives it a little bit of interest. So I've got that set to like 70%. And another thing, obviously CV allows is control over the types of the filters and the various other things like the pulse width modulation. We can control the resonance and the filter, as well as the VCA using an envelope. So there's lots of ways to control basic sounds, but for this one, just to make this sound a bit interesting, I'm going to control the filter with an LFO, which an LFO is just a voltage going up and down. So I can adjust the rate of this. A bit higher. Choose the saw rather than square wave. So you can see sort of building things up. It's not heavily patched at the moment, and that's one of the nice things about more simple systems like this, where you've got a lot of the VCO, VCA, F and A all sort of built into one unit. With LFO separate, you can do things quite quickly. Another type of thing is the sequences on modular gear, and in fact most sequences on workstations can be a little repetitive. So one of the reasons I got this little one is I can feed in and some onto each step, so random CVs. So that last step there, for example, I'm feeding in a random voltage just onto that last step, and that's raw random. That's, you can hear it going up and down pretty fast. I can control the tempo of how it changes, and again, it's to give it a bit of interest. And I can put that on any step. Let's go on the second step, for example. And potentially I could have complete random going across the whole sequence, but sometimes it's nice to have a couple of notes that do repeat. Let's use a CV here. So I'm actually going to use, I'll just turn that down a sec. I'm actually going to use a sample and hold random CV into, let's say, the second step. And a sample and hold one is basically every time it gets a trigger, it's going to send a fixed random voltage rather than a sliding one out to this second step. And that makes a bit more sense. I've just sent it a fixed clock here, so you'll hear the effect. If I just go to a two-step sequence, every second one is going to have a random voltage sent to it. And I'm controlling the amount of randomness and also the pitch of the randomness, if it's a sort of high pitched. And because this is all being quantized by a nice minor scale, let's make it a pentatonic just for a bit more interest. So pentatonic is obviously less notes, but so you can hear that sequence now. Let's just go to 3 steps. Every second step is going to get a different note, and I could actually, because I'm going to the gate here, I could actually not have a third step. So now we've suddenly got this. We've now got this triplet feel, and I can immediately go to say 5/4. Lots of polymeter. I think when I was using the Model D and the Neutron, doing that sort of Tangerine Dreamy stuff last few weeks, constantly changing the meter just to keep people on the toes, and being able to change the notes as well on the fly and let it do its own thing is kind of cool. Okay, so that's only like 4 parts. We've got a bass line that's doubled up by that staccato pluck. We've got a sequence going on this one, and obviously the bass drum. Let's add, just in terms of creating drums, all you really need is low. No, all you really need is a trigger to trigger a drum. So what I often do is use the 4th track of this little steppy, feed that, use a nice yellow one, keep track of where things are going, feed that into this snare drum module, and now super easy way of getting a snare drum going. Again, I can add a bit of probability to that, so they're not playing all the time. Make it a bit more human. I can also add a fast fill in, let's say this. See what that sounds like. So that occasionally, I think there's probability on that already. So I've just added a bit of probability to that step. And again, this is just to get some variation so that sort of syncopated step there will play 50% of the time, and then I've got an overall global probability as well. So let's have a listen to that added together. Okay, and so this, I'm doing, like I said, I'm doing this kind of slowly just to show you how easy it is to build things up. And what I'm going to do now is use this quantizer. I've got two quantizers, oh, sorry, three altogether in here, but these two have got little keyboards built in. So that's kind of cool for doing like, you know, chordal things, or if you want a fixed bass note and that sort of thing, or you want it to randomly choose between a couple of notes. So a typical example of that would be, let's take a trusty, I'll use this one down here for the moment, trusty random voltage, the right length, from this module quickly into a note CV, and I'm going to clock this one with quite a slow trigger. So what I mean by that is I can take a slow clock and tell it to generate a random note based on a sort of slow clock, which is still in time. And then I'm going to take the output of, slightly longer lead for this, output of that. No, in fact, I'll multiply that one as well, because I'm already thinking, hello Philip, I'm already thinking ahead that as that's going to be like a bass root note, then I may want to duplicate it, duplicate it on something like a rhythmic element. So I'm going to take that note out into this multiplier here, and then feed one of them into perhaps this module, which is going to be like a sub-bass type thing. Okay, I'm trying to keep two coloured or black leads for notes. So now, and I think this whole thing's in C minor, so now turning this module up, has some permanent sustain, and now going to say play in C minor. I'm actually entering it to this tip-top quantizer, but I only want it to play C and A flat. And I'm going to use this as a sort of sub-bass thing. Hopefully you can hear the sub-bassness of that. So what's happening here is that we're going to clock every now and then being sent to this randomizer, random CV, and it's being quantized onto either a C or an A flat, and of course against a let's go back to 5/4 here. Super low, so we can turn that up a bit, change the octave. So that sub-bass is coming from this mini synth, and again got control over that if I want, but just for the moment I'm going to have a nice pure sub-bass. Let's see what it sounds like with everything else we set up. One thing that'd be nice with the sub bass is a bit of modulation, so that means just to make the sound vary slightly. So I'm going to feed in one of these Lfos, so I've got a bank of 4 Lfos here. Lfos are just frequencies, voltages that go up and down. Feed it into there, so the first one. And that will just make it a bit more interesting. All the time, as I'm developing this piece, for example, constantly adjusting the meter to see which kind of works nice or works best. And because I've got this sub bass on a scale here, I can change it. So if I wanted to add like a E flat, I tell it just to play E flat, I can choose the scale here. Gives me a bit of control, so that allows me, for example, to play, let's go into F minor. Not sure about that solo sound, fiddle with that. Go back to E flat. So I've got control over the sub bass here, and of course because it's random I can choose like a scale. I can say just go for C, G and A flat, and then just play along with what it gives me. Also, like I said, we've also got the ability to use that sub bass, which is currently doing this. Because I've already put it into the mult, I can take that same note CV and feed it into something else and get a bit of rhythm going, perhaps using a different gate thing here. So I'm going to feed the note into oscillator 1 of this twin waves, which is a digital VCO, and then gate that from step track B over here, which I'm not using at the moment for anything. So let's go track B into the gate of oscillator 1. Not sure what sound's set up at the moment. Nothing's playing at the moment because track B is not got any notes. Let's just try one. There we go. I can make the gate length a bit longer. So this should be playing the same note as the sub bass. Try a different sound. So let's put a more complex rhythm in, perhaps a triplety thing. Bit of probability, some faster notes. And the notes are changing a bit fast on that sub bass, so I'll just slow the clock down over here. Another thing potentially is using a third version of this random note to play like a sustained sound. But I've also got this other quantizer here, which is sat doing nothing. So what I want to do here is I'm going to use it as a arpeggiator. No, just for the moment, because I'll do that later. Just for the moment, I'm going to take that same sub-bass note and feed it into like a stringy sound. So we've got three things doing the same note now. Find a stringy sound on that one. Let's add an F into this random sequence over here. Okie dokie. So that was a sort of longer explanation of like doing one track. Let's let's de-patch everything and start from scratch. So what I'm going to do now is just, so you've got the basic principles. If anyone's got any questions, fire away. Because what I want to do now is show you a sort of super quick way of getting a biggish sounding piece going. I'll leave a couple of things patched in, like the clock for that sequencer. So if anyone's got any questions, got a few viewers online at the moment. Because what I do now is like, imagine you've just come in from a hard day's, whatever you do that's hard, and you just want to throw an idea down from scratch. How quickly can you do it? I'll wait for any questions, because YouTube tends to have this dreadful 20-second delay. So I go, blah blah, hands off who's got a green car, and 20 seconds later, people come along. So I'll just wait for questions. So, like I said, the modular, once you've sort of customized it to the type of things you want, then and you don't constantly change the modules. It becomes almost second nature in terms of building up new types of pieces. And I think, as I said in the notes, you know, obviously just throwing a bass drum and a couple of other percussion parts on some step sequences, you can quickly get a drum beat going, do some probability variate, and then add in a techno bass line and things like that. So you can do that. You can obviously go super slow, just concentrate on the sound design. Sound design elements like a lot of people do, and that's why it sort of gets that ambient label. Modular tends to get the ambient label. And then there are issues, not issues, and then there's just making weird noises, and there's different modules that you can get to make weird noises. I mean, your basic analog synth type ones that these are, you're not going to get as many interesting noises as some of the other types of modules using granular synthesis and sampling and that sort of stuff. The digital modules can. In fact, I'm getting the final module here. There's a bit of black tape filling in the hole. Is Ornaments and Crime, which is like a multi-purpose digital thing. It'll do all sorts of things. It's sort of a mini computer and has a lot of modules and apps built in. Oh, sorry, Justin, I just spotted that. So yeah, recommended retailers. The main one in Australia is Found Sound, where I get most of my modules from. A lot of the you know, the well-known retailers, Manny's and Store DJ and things, do your basic Behringer stuff. I've got many Behringers left in here now. I do still have a bunch. And they're pretty cheap. So if you're just getting started, you know, go to your basic stores like Store DJ and Manny's. I got quite a few of these from Facebook Marketplace and Gumtree, because a lot of people, you know, do evolve their racks and are selling stuff off. So it was a really, sorry, just excuse me when I'm fiddling with my cables here. And a lot of people do obviously sell off their gear super quick, super cheap sometimes. So I've got, I can't remember, certainly the multis, I got second hand, I think one of the Lfos, the envelope generator, second hand, all like half price. The most expensive modules in here actually is, I think, these are about 300 Australian for these mini simps, but it's something I specifically wanted. Quantizer, that's a sort of good top end Quantizer, 250-ish. So yeah, check out Gumtree and Facebook Marketplace and eBay, of course. I think I got a few bits and bobs on eBay. In fact, I got that on eBay, this Hikari, which is pretty rare. Pretty hard to get them in as new into the stores, but yeah, it's. But you're going to find. Well, you really got to have in your mind what type of workstation you want, because this is to me a workstation. This is portable, and in answer to your second question, this is 84 HP across. So there's two of those, and then I've got this 1U in the middle here. And this box, excuse me, I think was only about 300, 400, and it's got a flight case, and I can carry that hiking with me, and that's specifically what I wanted it for. The power supply, 2 power supply units, which require a couple of power warts, but I went for the easy option, and just to pull this over without wrecking the setup. This little power pack will power this for about 10 hours. I think I've had it running, I left it on by accident once. And I came back 10 hours later, it was still powering it. So they don't require a lot of juice, these modules. I think can't remember, I've got the rack on Modular Grid, where you can actually put your rack in and it works out the voltage requirements and things like that. In fact, I'd encourage you, for those who are not in module, play with VCF, which is a free software modular system you can play with, or go to modulargrid.net and you can have a look at all the different modules and then actually put them in a virtual rack and try things out before you buy. There you can also see how many people have got them in racks. You can go to their YouTube channel, have a look at how they're using them, that type of thing. No worries, Justin. Yeah, Found Sound, I think, is the largest supplier in the Southern Hemisphere, so recommend those. So approaching a track from scratch, so there's no more sort of technical questions or musical ones. The way I can approach this, if I'm just doing, let's say, my style of track, because that's the problem. If I do an ambient piece, I can just choose, get a drone going in 3 seconds and modulate it, and literally throw a ton of reverb on it, and very quickly I can go straight into ambient piece like that. And if I wanted for the sake of a fall to the floor type thing, just throw, let's get a metronome going, turn the reverb off, and perhaps the delay as well, and immediately get a drum machine going in a few seconds. Like I said, Modular doesn't have to be super hard to get this stuff going. Choose a different something a bit more industrial. If I want, like I said, if I wanted to get something interesting going that just fueled my imagination, I could take, using this Turing machine. A Turing machine is going to generate notes that are sort of slightly intelligent. So I'm taking the output of that, and then I just need to trigger that with something rhythmic. And bear with me a second, I've got to tune that, so I'm going to throw that through a Quantizer. So, like I said, if you normally I'd sort of do this second nature, but I realise I'm doing this live, so I'm using this Quantizer here. So this is the Turing module. It's receiving some steps from here. So I've got a slew. This the Mosaic Quantizer for some reason defaults to this really weird slew. Right, so I'm trying to get a bass line, something remotely approaching a bass line. That's a bit different, so I just need to fiddle with this. I'm changing the gate. I think it's got a long gate on at the moment. Let's just turn the drum machine, the rhythm track off a sec. So what this Turing machine is doing... Oh, hi Andrew, is that Andrew Manzano? Yeah, no worries. So I'm going to set it to just a couple of steps, lower register, and I'm saying the probability here it's going to change the notes, but I can actually fix it, so it's going to do a fixed sequence now based on when I stopped it. And I just need a gate in here now, so I'm going to take the same gate that's going to the Turing machine, and this is where we need to multiply the clock a bit, so I'm taking the gate to a multiplier, going from that into the Turing machine, and I'm going to take the same gate into this mini synth. So you get your traditional, in this case, an acidy bass line. I'll go back to a snare drum sound on that one, just to keep it clean. So that's a bass line. I think we're in C minor-ish. Oh no, let's go into changing the scale here. So let's go into that. And this is where the quantizer dictates the scale and the notes, and of course the Turing machine's just doing some sort of random voltages, and the quantizer is going to choose the most appropriate ones. So I can change the feel of the bass line by choosing different quantized notes. So you get the idea with that. If I wanted to add a sequencer in, I'll try and do the easy version. This Twin Waves has got its own quantizer built in, so if I'm super lazy, I can just take the CV out of the sequencer straight into my oscillator 2, which doesn't need a gate. Slightly out of tune, so I need to turn the quantizer on. And let's make it faster. Okay, so that's just quick, and again, depatching. You can see the track could build up quite quickly, and adding probability and that sort of thing in as well can make it more interesting, just to try and demystify doing things quickly. So I've done an ambient, a sort of beaty thing. If I wanted something like lots of sequences, I'm just getting a warning about the stream's bitrate to go away. Say I wanted to go sequencer crazy, take let's do the easy version, sequencer from that into this oscillator 2. I'm going to make all the pitches a bit higher. Make this a pentatonic. No, I'm actually going to quantize this just for the hell of it. So I'm going to quantize this first sequence into there, and use the built-in quantizer. That gives me a bit more control over the keys, rather than using this built-in quantizer. Turn this built-in quantizer off. Let's have a bit of delay on that so it works. Tried to go for something a bit sort of Kayane-skatsy. And then we can take let's take the arpeggiator on random. So this is so I'm going to try and develop something quickly with 3 sequences in a matter of seconds. So using this arpeggiator into Minisynth 2, and then trigger that from a constant step, but a fast one. So that's triggered. This is self-quantizing as well. So now let's listen to that one. So this is playing a minor random thing. It's tuned down a bit. See what those two sound like together, panned left and right. Slightly out of tune, so I need to adjust the tuning of this arpeggiator. I think one of the things you have to do quite a lot in Modular is tune modules. So I'm just going to set this to a very slow, not fast, and get it into the C minor scale that I want it to be in. Okay, so that should fit in. Fit in with this, which is also doing a C minor That's not in tune either. So trying to get this this one in C minor as well. So it was originally there. Nothing's changed there. That's in tune. I changed the. Okay, so I think this twin waves is slightly out of tune very quickly. So once these are tuned up, it's usually a bit quicker than this. So. Okay. So super simple arpeggiators. I can make this this one random on this arpeggiator, so it's a bit more interesting. And then we'll have again another C, perhaps sub bass in the middle, which is sort of random on a scale. So quickly take that, feed that from a random sample and hold, as I did before. There's a lot of things in Modular that you duplicate, of course. So I'll take the clock for that, using tracking the colours. So this is a sub bass which is going to go in the middle, in theory. Something rhythmic with that, perhaps. I'm going to take track B and do something a bit more industrial or slightly different on the rhythm. On this drum 2, which is the one that was playing the snare originally. So let's choose that track. Choose a different sound. What I'm going to do here is turn on all steps for that snare drum sound and then just put a probability quite low and just see how it sounds. I'm just experimenting here. So that was only like 2 arpeggios, a sub bass, and then a bit of a rhythm. So that was like 4 parts very quickly. So you can see you can develop things quite quickly. Ambient is one of the easiest ones. Just get a drone going and then have some sort of slow random notes floating around it, and Bob's your uncle for a lot of that type of stuff. Any more questions? So we're up to about an hour. Hi, any recommendations for reducing noise on USB power devices like the NTS1? Yeah, just make sure that, I don't know if you can see this, they're all on separate power supplies. So the NTS1 is coming from a completely separate power bank, and it reduces all noise of every, because the whole lot's going through this at the moment. And I can get it sounding very clean. In fact, that's why I built this little unit here, which has got a lid over there, and it sort of encloses it, and I can take it on, make it mobile. So they're pretty noise free. Most of the hiss you're hearing at the moment is from this microphone. What happened to my, taking everything off. Yeah, so if I turn the mic off, you can hear that it's pretty hiss-free. And that's the way I like it. In fact, that pan pot's a bit noisy on that one. So so that's hopefully a little taste of doing things quickly. So what I'm going to do now is probably just a half hour of live performance. No idea where the piece is going to go. It could go into a rhythmic thing. It could go into something else. I think I'm going to start using the keyboard because Modular also gets another bad rap because it's not musical. So the first thing I often do is make sure I patch up a actual physical keyboard so I can play things. So and like I did before, duplicate, and this is just a start on the event. In a couple of seconds I'm gonna, you can get ground insulators and loops and things, but generally when I'm out and about I kind of want everything to be power pack powered, so it actually makes sense to that. If I start getting ground loops and running it all off the same supply and things, you're asking for trouble. Whereas these power packs powering the Q Nexus, the NTS1, and these two mixers will last, I think, about 20 odd hours. So once that's set up and that's sort of installed, I don't really need to get any of the ground loop stuff going because it's I've got unlimited power anyway. So what was I doing? Yeah, just getting this sort of rhythmic second part going on. Perhaps I'll use oscillator 1 over here and then a different gate on that. And in fact I'm going to use just set this up, which is the slightly more complicated bit. I'm going to use this envelope generator over here to allow me to have a more musical gate on this one. So, and I just need a little gate in there. We'll use track A. Yeah, we'll have a sort of high note. And then Francisco, individual power banks are the way to go. It completely, in fact, I'm turn that off a sec. In fact, I'm running, believe it or not, the laptop on a off my Jackery type thing at the moment, simply because it cuts down the looping, the earth loop, because of the laptop, because it can end up with horrible noise. So I want to turn this down. This should be pretty quiet. I'll be interested in a little test. Something flickering there. I don't quite know what that is. But yeah, let's go into a little piece. Now the viewers are dropping off because something going on, and just see where it goes. And then any questions, keep asking, and I might come back to them at the end as I go through. So mic off, nice silence. Let's start a bit of a piece. Okay, I don't know quite what's happened there. I can see the camera still working. Annoying. Anyway, I was just sort of getting going there. I'll call it a day now. Anyway, oh, you still got audio. That's good. Yeah, I was hoping that was the case. Don't have the can't really disconnect the camera because my Zoom Q2N 4K is doing audio and vision together. I've just got a warning about the bit rate on the stream, so it's obviously, well, what was going on there? I suppose I could go mute, but then you lose all the wonderful vision. I'll just check OBS. Bear with me a sec. Oh, it's gone off OBS too. I wonder if I can re-choose it. Oh no, it says it's disappeared off the OBS. Oh well, these things happen. Can't seem to wake it up. Camera doesn't generally go to sleep. Audio's good. Sorry, great. Yeah, thanks, Philip and Justin. But I'll call it a day there anyway. Thanks for everyone. Some people are asking about the NTS1. I think it might be time to call it a day for me anyway. Yeah, 2 a.m. Yeah, thanks for hanging around to that late. See your inverted popes. What was I saying? Yeah, NTS1, well worth it as a little tiny device. On my other racks, I've got it sort of mounted on the side, which you can't see at the moment, but I think if you look at my video from last Sunday, you can see it screwed in. I actually got 3 of them, and yeah. But I can't remember if there's any other questions. I'm doing this all in the dark. Reverb and delays built into the rack. NTS1, no. All good. So thanks for popping in again. I'll do some investigation as to why the video cut out there. Yeah, thanks Justin, thanks Philip, and yeah, see you next week. Cheers.